Hello and welcome to Better Than Yesterday. So my name is Michael Jans van Rensburg and I am your host for today's episode. And I'm here to talk to you about how to make more friends, particularly outside of high school. So you might not think that this is a topic that's really worth discussing in that it's such a simple concept. Making friends is something that we learn to do it from such a young age. And if you struggle to make friends from a young age, then you sort of become an outcast in society from the get go. So it's usually something that we have to learn very early on in life, is how to make friends. And but there's actually a bit of an issue with making friends these days for young people in this generation because, as a YouTuber myself, I spend a lot of time on YouTube just surfing the net, doing research, or maybe just wasting time watching entertainment. But I was scrolling through my recommended page, and a video came up like quite a while back where it was this young person who was in their 20s, and they were talking about the fact that they just had no friends. And I looked along the side of the video, and there was a bunch of videos that had the same sort of title, and were young people in their 20s, and they were talking about the fact that they just have no friends. Um, and I've realized, even from just looking around at my community, and since then further delving into the fact that a lot of people actually struggle to make friends, particularly outside of high school. And the reason being, when you're going to school, for example, you're in a place where you're surrounded by people who are your age, who are probably, who are striving towards the same thing. You're both trying to just finish matric and, get outside of school. You all have similar interests in that you play sports together. You have different subjects that you all do together, things to relate about like maths and English and how hard the test on Friday was. So there's all these things that you can relate to, and there's these young people that are your age, doing the same thing. So it's very easy to make friends in that sort of situation. And I think most of us during school would have made some really good friends. But what I want to ask you a question is, how many friends have you actually made since you left high school? And I think that's a question that I asked myself. And I've actually thankfully, I've never been someone who struggled with making friends, and subsequent to leaving high school, and I'd say even in high school, a lot of my friends actually I did make outside of school anyway. Through my church community, for example. But I mean, talking about like different places and ways that you can get to meet people. But yeah, I think that's just an interesting question to ask yourself: is how many friends have you actually made since high school? And when you finish high school, matric, you start to go to college and all that sort of thing. Um, you know, you start to go your separate ways. So sometimes you lose the friends that you've had for years and years and years. So now you have to start to make new friends. That's something I've noticed. A few friends that I was, always best mates with at school. As soon as school finished, we just don't have the same interests. We're not going in the same direction. So it's difficult to keep that friendship going, and you end up losing some friends as soon as you leave high school. So yeah, I think this is a valuable topic to talk about. Is how you can actually make more friends and really put yourself out there as a young person. Get a new group of people to be around because you're not in that space anymore where you're gonna be at school. So you have to find new ways to meet people and new ways to make connections, and that's what we're talking about. So this is one thing that I've really noticed in terms of making friends with people, is that you have to be willing to make it awkward or to be awkward. There's always that situation where you're in the elevator with someone, for example, and you're both going up the same floor, and you feel like it's so awkward. Like you just have to, instead of making eye contact with that person, you whip out your phone and you just pretend someone messaged you, so you don't have to make eye contact and have a conversation. But I feel like that's actually a big flaw of our generation, is that we have that phone to whip out. That's just something we can fall back on. Previous if you didn't have that, for example, you would actually just have to make some conversation with that person. Otherwise, then it really is awkward. You know what I mean? So I would say you have to have the ability to push through the awkwardness at first. Sometimes you're gonna to really meet people and that sort of thing. You're gonna have to approach someone who you might not even know, and make conversation. I mean, one of my best mates that I have at the moment, I was actually at the gym the one time, and I'd actually seen his profile picture a few times. He subsequently, through doing online university together, I knew that he went to the same university as me, and I realized like, hey, that's that guy. He goes to university with me. We'd had a couple of chats, and I was like, sure, let me go up to him. So even he was gymming with a friend of his over there, and I was over here doing my stuff, but I recognized that it was him, and I was like, hey man, like this is me, like I realized that you go to the same university as me, and I just sort of pushed that awkward part of like not really knowing what to say. I was just sort of like, "Hey man, we messaged a couple times on Microsoft Teams, about university," and he was like, "Oh yeah, yeah, yeah." I wasn't really sure what I was talking about, but there was sort of that awkward moment. But you have to be willing to push through that. And subsequently from that, I messaged him after that, and we've actually became really good friends. We hang out all the time. So that's such a cool friendship that I've made from having the willingness to actually like just push through an awkward situation or something that it doesn't even have to be awkward. Things are only really awkward if you make them awkward. So I would say, yeah, you have to have that ability and push through that. Don't be scared of awkward moments, because actually you can make some beautiful friendships just from those sort of situations. Don't whip out your phone, like actually go up and talk to the people. That's definitely a good piece of advice, I would say. And then second point that I have is actually a video that I've made just prior to this one, so you should definitely go and watch that. And it's basically just about asking more questions. I've found that I've made quite a lot of friends outside of high school, simply because when I meet people, I just ask questions. You know what I mean? And when they answer your question, you need to really take an interest in what they say. If you're watching this video, you're here because you want to make more friends. So to make more friends, you have to be willing to ask questions of people and actually take an interest in what they say. So you ask them like what their hobbies are, and they might give you an answer that you're not actually really interested in. Like a lot of people, like a guy will, I'll ask a guy what he's interested in, he'll be like, "Oh, I just love fishing," and me personally, like, I'm not the type of guy that does fishing at all. I've hardly ever done it in my life. But if someone says that to me, I'll actually take the time and be like, "Wow, okay, so tell me more about that. That's really interesting. That's really cool." So you don't actually have to be interested in what they are doing. And the wrong type of response to that would be like, "Oh, I don't like fishing. I've never really done it." You know what I mean? Like, take an interest in what they like. You know what I mean? If you really want to make friends with people, you can't just be blunt and boring the whole time and be like, "Oh yeah, I don't like that. I've never done it before." Be like, "Okay, cool. That's interesting. Tell me more about it. Like, when did you first start fishing? Like, who do you do it with? What are your favorite places to go?" So that's a topic that I sort of touched on in a previous video of just asking more questions and take an interest when people give you the answers. And I think that is a valuable skill to have. But now here's some more practical places, I think, and ways to actually meet people. So here's something that's quite real. It's like you might actually have to rethink your hobbies, because if you're someone who's fresh out of high school and is just struggling to make new connections and meet new people and make friends, you have to sort of find new places where you're going to be surrounded by young people who are your age, who are striving towards a similar goal, because that's how you make friends. Those three ingredients are usually the type of things that will drive you towards people. So you need to rethink your hobbies. Your hobbies might be some weird things like watching anime online or playing these like rare indie games. You know what I mean? Which is cool. That's great. But if you're looking towards making more friends, you might need to start joining some more hobbies that are actually, you know, have a lot of people attending. So if an example of this can be joining a gym. That's something that a lot of people do in their spare time, and that's a good place to meet people. Like I said, I mean, I just gave you that example of how I met someone through the gym, and oftentimes, again, it'll be a situation where you can just go up to someone and be like, "Hey, man, I saw like you were lifting, and you look really good at it. Could you give me some advice on this thing?" You know what I mean? So you need to obviously have the courage to take a stand and be confident and speak to people when you're in those situations, but even if you have those skills, if you're not in a situation to actually meet people, then there's no point in having those skills. You know what I mean? So join a local gym. I think a church is a great place to meet people. Find places like this where there will be other young people your age, and and you guys can have a common interest together. It can even be joining like a martial art class, something like that. Painting, there's all sorts of hobbies that people do where they meet in groups and do these sort of things. So consider joining something like that, and that's actually like a really good place to meet lots of young people. And for myself, I mean, most of my friends I make these days are through the gym, through church, through communities that I found in church and that sort of thing. So consider going to these like big social events, and that's where you'll actually make a lot more friends. And 100%, you need to be spending more time outdoors. Look at me outside right now, and you're not gonna make friends indoors. And realistically, online friends are not the real thing. Do you know what I mean? I think a lot of the time these days as well, with since COVID, we spend so much time indoors, and we have friends that we'll have calls with online, and there's things like Discord and Zoom and Teams, and you might have friends that you sort of interact with on these sort of platforms and on social media, but that's not really your friends. If you're in a dark place and it's late at night and your tires just got a puncture, you're halfway down the highway and you need someone to help you, like, can you actually call those friends to help you? And if not, then you need to be making some real friends out in the real world. So online friends don't count. You need to be going outside, going outdoors, and yeah, go for hikes. Spend time in the park. Go to the beach, for example. Literally, another example of this. I mean, I remember when I was younger. I was at the beach with a few friends of mine, and we were just playing a bit of football on the grass there. And we ended up making two like really really good friends that we spent so much time with over the next couple of years throughout the summer, because they just asked us. They were like, "Hey man, can we join in on the soccer game?" And we were like, "For sure, just join in." And then those guys ended up being our best mates for the next couple of years. So you have to be outdoors. You have to be in situations where people will approach you, where you have the ability to approach other people, and that's just really going to increase the chances of making friends. But so we've been talking about this issue of making friends, but I think it is something that is really important, because I'm in a situation in my own life right now where I'm very blessed to say that I have a great community around me. I have a lot of friends who, yeah, and I've made them through these techniques that I've told you. I'm a few years out of high school right now myself, but I would say my circle has only grown since leaving high school. And but unfortunately, that's something that I don't see in the world around me. I think a lot of people are struggling at the moment to make friends and to keep friends. So I would say try and take some of this advice on board, because life is better with friends. Do you know what I mean? It just really is. Loneliness is a real issue, and at times in my life I've felt loneliness, and it's one of the worst feelings you can have. Just when you are a young person who is you know able-bodied, like keen to be doing all these things, but you look around you and there's just no one to do it with. You know what I mean? That's really not a place you want to be in. And yeah, you just want to create a good group of friends. That you can actually rely on, and it's not easy. It's not going to happen quickly, but taking the advice that I've said and just putting yourself out there, asking questions and taking an interest and pushing through awkward phases. I think pushing through awkward phases has gained me so many relationships in my life as well. Because other people just wouldn't take those opportunities because they're just like, oh, it's gonna be awkward. I don't think they want to speak to me. Who cares? Like, even if that person rejects you and it's like, nah, I don't want to speak to you. That's their loss in the end. And also, that probably happens a lot less than you think it might. Like, most of the time, people are actually like, wow, this guy's coming up to me, or this girl is coming up to me and taking an interest and asking me a question. Like, that's really cool. They actually people really appreciate that sort of thing, and you can like I said, you can make great friends that way. So yeah, that's sort of been the video. I don't want to repeat myself too much by going over the same points, but it's been cool to have this conversation with you outdoors here, better than yesterday. Yeah, if you want to hear more conversations like this, I run this channel with a friend of mine called Daniel, great friend of mine that actually I made during school, to be fair, and we've stayed friends throughout this whole time period, despite the fact that he lives in a different country from me at the moment, and we're running this podcast together. But yeah, our goal with this is really just to push self-improvement and ways that you can improve in any walk of life. There's so many ways to improve and so many ways to just make the world a better place. I think that's what we're trying to do. Be better than the people we were yesterday. That's really what we are trying to do here. So if you like these and enjoy these kind of conversations, yeah, consider following this channel, and we're definitely going to be doing some more content. But I've really enjoyed having this conversation. I hope that you have enjoyed listening to it, and yeah, I hope that one day we can become friends by you leave a comment, and we would genuinely be keen to go on this sort of journey together, because life is so much better when we're doing it with people. I think people are what makes life like worth it. If you were just doing a job every single day and you came home and there was no one to share all this money that you're making with, for example, then there's really no point in doing that sort of thing. So I think we need to have people surrounding us, and I'm so grateful for the people I have in my life. I really am. And I hope that you can find that sort of thing too. But much love from Better Than Yesterday. Peace out.